Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Sunday podcast, where we desire to take the conversation beyond Sunday. I'm Devin, and I'm here with Sharia.
Hey,
Great. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. The sun is almost shining. We get to be in person this one.
Yeah.
Heyo. So, before we dive into the conversation, take a look at this video. Hey guys, welcome back. As we dive into the conversation, Shreya, what was the big idea for this Sunday and some of the scriptures that we were in?
Yeah. The focus this week in this series of God being with us, God with us as we're in Epiphany, is Jesus as the light. And so we're looking at scripture that talks about the light of the world. So for us, we started in Isaiah 9, which talks about like a people who walk in darkness, there will be a light. And there's this promise of like this light will be coming. And so the people who are currently in darkness, the places that are currently in darkness, there's this promise that the light is coming. And then we jump to Matthew 4, and Jesus is called out as the light. And so Matthew even, he quotes that same passage in Isaiah, but the tense changes. So instead of a light is coming, a light has come. And so Jesus is revealed as the light that has been promised. So that was our main focus in this one. And so then we looked at like first of all the idea of like, okay, so
Are you about to get sciencey on us?
well, like a little bit.
Okay.
Wait, don't be rude.
No, I'm just you're
Wait, what?
gonna teach us about light.
I'm just gonna like big overview.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
I think you're gonna be rude.
No,
Okay.
I think it's really cool.
So we talked about, yeah, so light, because so the way that this week came together for me was even just so clearly like God was bringing these things to mind in different conversations. And with our teenagers on Wednesday, I called this out on Sunday, but this has been so cool. I think I've said it on the podcast too, but we've got our teenagers every Wednesday reading the scriptures for the coming Sunday,
Yeah.
Which selfishly, as the one who's regularly preaching, like I get to sit in the room and just glean from these teenagers. And so even this week, some of the call outs of like Isaiah to Matthew, and like, wait, it says the same locations in these places. And so then we get to dig into like, yeah, what does it say is going to happen in Galilee, and why is Galilee of the Gentiles significant? And so talking about, because the language in Isaiah is that glory is going to fill Galilee of the Gentiles. And so this space that Jesus shows up in, these very same physical locations Jesus shows up in, to bring not only the light that's going to dispel the darkness, but also to fill it with glory. And so for me, that was such a callback to even Genesis, which I feel like lately I feel like I am in Genesis 1 every week. But the reminder that like as God creates humanity, he says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. And the idea that is like, if I'm created in the image of God to actually carry his glory, then when he says fill the earth, he's like, fill the earth with my glory. This is what you're designed for. And humanity chooses empire over and over again. And so God's like, the rest of the story is God kind of putting this back together so that we can once again do what we were designed to do and fill the earth with his glory. And so that we talked through that a little bit, which for me was this recognition that like when the Israelites in Isaiah, when the Israelites are, there's this call out of like, you live in darkness, but the darkness isn't going to last. But it's like this idea of darkness is like, actually, because humanity isn't doing the thing it was designed to do, there's darkness in all the places that were supposed to be filled with the glory of God.
Mhm.
And so even just that understanding or recognition for me. And then Jesus shows up, and it's like now Jesus shows you what it looks like. Not only is he bringing, like, he is God and he is human, but as the light, he shows us what it looks like to be the light and to bring that glory. And so that for me, this is the sciencey piece, because the understanding of like light refraction, right? So we see light like a flashlight as a white light, but if we like, we've all done this in, I don't know what grade you do it in, some grade of science class or whatever,
Prism.
with a prism. Yeah, so I had a prism. I made Marcus drive to the I made him go get a prism.
The science store.
But like, yeah, the homespun store, because I couldn't find ours.
But like
I know we have them, but I'm
like, oh, are you doing a lesson on light
Yeah.
refraction? And you're like, nope, I'm preaching a sermon.
Yeah, but also like homeschool's fine. I have one somewhere, so now I have two.
Do you have a discount?
You know what? I probably would have. So white light hits a prism. It bends the light. You can see the colors, right? We know, like, you can see a rainbow on the wall or whatever. And so for me, that imagery was helpful of like, if we talk about the life Jesus lived, and we use language Jesus shaped life, we talk about that being a triangular life. And so Jesus had three relationships that he like leans into, right?
Great loves.
The up relationship with the Father, he leans into relationship with community, and then he goes out into relationship with those who don't yet know Jesus. So if I'm going to shape my life after Jesus, I would live this kind of triangular life as well, right? Which a triangular prism, when a bright white light hits a triangular prism, all of a sudden the light, not only can you see all of the colors, and it emphasizes all of the different colors and the different characteristics, the different beautiful attributes of who God is, but also the light grows. So like if you hold a flashlight on a wall, there's a point, right? Yeah. You put a prism in it, and all of a sudden the whole wall lights up. And so just that imagery was helpful for me in this idea of like, if I am living a life that's shaped after the way Jesus lived life, this triangular, like I'm leaning into these three great loves, these three relationships, then when the light of God fills me as a Jesus follower, then actually the way it shows up in the world is to fill the world with the glory, the colors of God, his characteristics, his attributes. And that is like that, and there's like layers of invitation in that, which is that's the place that for me was kind of landing on Sunday, is like some people who are here even in this space now, like it might just feel really dark, and you need to actually know that the light has come. It's shining. That there is a light, that there's an invitation for you to actually receive that light, and it has come. And that's the beauty of Epiphany and God with us. Like, we now as a people, the light has come. But maybe you know that, and maybe actually the invitation is that your life, you're not living a triangular life. So we talked even about like, if light goes through just a plain, like a sheet of glass, it's still just light. It's still just that same pinpointed white light. And so in the spaces where maybe I'm doing one or two of these great loves well, there's something missing from the way I'm reflecting the glory of God into the world. And so,
well, and isn't there something so the call out from Isaiah, light will come, to then Matthew 4, the light has come. Jesus is the light of the world. Then the next chapter, we're now carrying this light. You, it says in Matthew 5, are the light of the world. A city on a hill. So this light that Jesus brings into the world, that then we're calling out in the season of Epiphany, God with us, to now we carry this same light, and are to shine it. There is something for me different about reflecting than it is to the refraction that you talk about in this example of the prism. Light going into the prism just now explodes onto the wall, where the light itself was focused on an area. Through the prism, now the whole wall gets a colorful or more light gets to be spread out. There is a sense to me in that example of God being the light, especially talking about Genesis. He's the light that comes, and then Jesus, and even John talks about this as the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. But that Jesus is the light that has come into the world. That now, all along from Genesis, we have been carrying the image of God.
Right.
To shine and or to refract,
right.
to spread the glory of God through the earth, right, to be fruitful and multiply. That's like this spread of God's glory, my creation, made in my image, here to spread out on this creation that I've made for them. That sin enters the world, that really gets kind of dim, and God's people like choosing themselves or choosing empire or disobedience and sin clouding that light or within us to be able to shine the glory of God, because we've lost our image in some ways, or it's been diminished, or we have clouded it over or cloaked it. That sin has cloaked it, right? To be able to spread the image or the glory of God. That in this way of Jesus coming into the world as the light of the world, now he's with us to expose or to pull off the cloak of sin, to redeem and reconcile, that he is now the righteousness that we put on. And when we put on that righteousness, that's what we see, or what I read in Matthew 5 is like, you are the light of the world, a city on a hill. Don't hide your light, put it on a lampstand so that it illuminates the whole room. That's the piece of, like, in your example of shining the light through the prism, boom, now the whole wall gets illuminated. And now that's the call out for me of like, if sin has shrouded or cloaked the image of God, then that light really doesn't mean it's not shining on me. But the glory of God's not coming from me. It's not being shown from me in these beautiful kinds of ways. When I put on the cloak of righteousness, that is Christ, now the whole wall again gets to be, the glory of God gets to be shown. The fullness that is God, the colors, I even like the way the Message puts that in Matthew 5 later on, is that we are then called to shine the God colors to the world. Because later on in Matthew 5, it talks about that, that let your light so shine before men that they see your good deeds and glorify the Father who is in heaven. It's just like, that's the testimony of God's light shining on us and through us.
And for me, so yes, the cloak of sin that can actually just cover or hide that. And then also in the spaces, there was this emphasis or this highlight for me on those three areas, because what I also recognize is that if I am only focused on one or two, and it actually doesn't matter which, but well, kind of does. But if I'm only focused on one or two, then actually, like the way light refraction works, right? It's not refracting if there's not at least that third. Doesn't have to be a triangle, but there has to be at least that third point. And if not, actually what we know to be true is like the light can be harsh. It can be made more harsh, right? So like we've all done the like catch an ant on fire kind of thing with the magnifying glass.
Never. I mean, it's been a weed. I was told to take care of the weeds, and rather than spraying the weed killer, I did the magnifying glass and burned the weed.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Because the other was super cruel.
Or like you didn't do it on someone's hand.
This is like,
thanks God for redemption. Anyways, let's use your example.
Confession moment.
So, but the idea that it actually can be really harsh. And as we're talking this whole year about a Jesus-shaped church, and Peter gives the example of living stones, right? And so this week, even in conversation and with our leadership, and we're talking about like, if Jesus is the cornerstone, this is all sits in Peter's language, right? If Jesus is the cornerstone, our lives, he calls us out as living stones if we model our lives after Jesus, right? And so we're trying to build a church out of dead stones, or are we trying to build a church out of living stones? But the idea, even as I was thinking that through, like initially as I read Peter's words, I think of stones, like a rock, a stone. But as I was thinking through this like light example and the glory, I was thinking like, okay, stones like gemstones can also refract light and shine glory. And this idea that as the church, if we are only emphasizing one or two of these places, where Jesus emphasizes all three, is the light actually coming off of us harsh, not in a way that fills the world with God's glory, but in a way that um is like too harsh for the people around us to actually see this warm, inviting, these are the beautiful colors of God, and instead we're just actually using that to burn people. And so there was something in that for me, about like, okay, if God's told us this year to like teach my people what it is to be my church, actually the step back from that is like, it means we each live a Jesus shaped life so that we are these living stones that are reflecting this warm glory around us. And so calling out like, what are the places, right? When we talk about Jesus shaped life, like most of us are pretty good at one, maybe kind of decent at two, not great at the third. And so whatever that is, do we recognize, first of all, the invitation to lean in to these three great loves, but also do I recognize like, here's a place where I'm lacking in that, or where I sense God's inviting me to like, hey, and so we even called out like, if your emphasis is on the up relationship with the Father and in relationship with community, that's great, but that's just really cozy. And like, guess what Satan's not worried about? Like,
Yeah.
cool.
Not really doing anything for God, bringing
Yeah.
God's kingdom here.
Right. And so the light maybe as it is gets really just focused inward and like, here we are. If my emphasis is up and out, that's like, okay, great. I've got relationship with the Father. I've got, spaces that I am showing up to serve, meeting needs around me. That's great, but that's also really isolating. And so in those moments or those times when life is hard, I actually need people around me who look like Jesus, who are showing that light to remind me, like, this is who God says you are, to encourage me and to support me. And so,
to come alongside and help bear up.
Come alongside. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And in the spaces where maybe, and this is the one, right? Jesus, it's very clear in the life of Jesus, he always starts with the up relationship. And so if we're missing that, and maybe I have like a good community of Jesus followers and I have a church family or whatever, and I've got spaces I'm serving and showing up in the world, that's great, but there's no power, the power, the authority that comes directly from the Father. And so
burnout's likely.
Burnout, either burnout or apathy.
Yeah,
like this is just like, it's good enough. I go to church on Sundays. I serve at this volunteer place. There's no connection to the Father.
Or like, is this all it is?
Yeah.
Is there more?
Yeah. And so in any given time or season, like, am I recognizing, can I call out in myself, these are the ways I'm leaning into these things. This is what I hear God inviting and how I'm going to say yes. With the understanding that when those three things exist in my life, that then the way God's light shines through me is this like warm, inviting glow, the glory of God in the places I work, live, and play. Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
as we wrap this episode up, then what would you say is the kairos that you still are hearing from God, or in what ways are you hearing from him and encouraged to respond?
Yeah. So this is coming like right now for me. We had a conversation with Zach, missions partner for you guys, and we got to do a podcast with him. And in that conversation, the idea of like, when we sit around tables, when we got the power of gathering around tables, and their context as missionaries is that's what their regular rhythm, their regular weekly rhythm looks like. They get to sit around the table and do church together, share a meal together in that way. And that's something that for us at Next Step, as a smaller congregation, we've been kind of doing that a little bit and getting our feet wet with that, and doing that again in a couple of weeks. And I think even between that conversation and this one now, as a leader, as a pastor of a church, I think that there's something about regularly asking those questions of myself, yes, but also of the people God's given me to shepherd. Is like, how's your up, and where's your in, and what does your out look like? And recognizing that, like, if we ask regularly in our context, and I know you guys do too, like, what's God saying and how will you respond? But maybe even the next step in that, like the more pointed, like, okay, what's God saying to you about your up, about your in, about your out, and asking those questions, because recognizing, like, if God's called us to be a church that's shaped like him, those three things need to be present in each of us. And so I think there's something in that, like, how do we regularly call out those things in each other, collectively as a congregation?
Yeah, I think so. That goes along with a sense for me, the Kairos of the having a community around me to help encourage the three great loves, right? With the Father, with fellow believers, and within a world, or in a world that doesn't know Jesus yet. That if it's just me, I'll do the best I can. But I'm going to be weak in some areas. And without that with a community to be able to ask those questions or have the common language of up relationship with Jesus. How are you pursuing him? What is that? Where is that taking place? And do you see it and recognize it? What are ways that you're engaged in faithful community that is centered around Christ? And do you know what that looks like? And have you seen how it breathes new life into you? And where is it that you're engaged in a world that needs to know that there is a God that loves them and needs the light in those places? Because when I'm obedient to show up and be the light and reflect the glory of God, darkness cannot exist.
Right.
And to have people in my life who are regularly walking with me, both encouraging and calling out and bringing to attention. If it without that, I sit in a place of like I'm okay in some of these places, but I'm not great.
Right.
And that's I guess it's the community piece of like regularly calling out, reflecting, discerning. Where is it that the three areas of my life exist, and do I know? And when I do, my praising God, and like your glory is being shown, right? And that I've got people around me who are both encouraging me in that and walking with me in that. And so that's the piece. Like I don't want to be two-dimensional. I desire to be three-dimensional, and because with that, then that glory of God is shown. Pretty magnificent. And it's not me; it's just through me or around me, and I either get to experience it because I'm around other people with that kind of life, or I too also get to reflect. Well, guys, thanks for listening in and joining with us in this episode. We hope and pray that your conversations are going to be on Sunday, and that what you're hearing from God also gets to engage other people in conversation and get to go deeper and even walk out faithfully what you're hearing from God. So have a blessed week.